My guest today got a phone call that changed everything. Someone he cared about was going through cancer treatment and asked him for one thing: to cook. What followed became something much bigger, a way of thinking about food, care, and what it actually means to show up for people when it matters most. Jonathan, when he asked you to cook for him, what did you think you were being asked to do?
Honestly, I had no idea. This was a client of mine in the film industry. We had just finished working on a big show. I thought he had left New York, and they called me between Thanksgiving and Christmas asking me to come in for a meeting. I thought it was maybe for a big holiday party, but when I got to the home, I discovered that this person was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma, and he would be going through a stem cell transplant, which would mean 100 days of quarantine at home. And what he was asking of me was to become his personal chef, to see him through this period. I was shocked. It's not what I do. I'm not a doctor. I don't work in nutrition around cancer care. So I was shocked.
When did it hit you that this wasn't about making dinner?
As he was talking, generally he's a pretty tough guy, a big shot, and he sort of explained that this vision was the food the doctors wanted him to eat during quarantine. He already thought he was going to die. And there was no joy. There was nothing enticing about this doctor diet. And he had this idea that if someone cooked the food that he grew up with as a child, it would bring him some joy. And maybe, just maybe, he would actually want to eat. He had already lost 30 pounds. And that maybe this would help him in recovery. And I at first said, no, no, this, I'm not able to do this. But after talking for some time, he convinced me to say yes.
And what happened?
Started showing up and cooking, and he wouldn't get out of bed. He was too sick. So it turns out, well, he knew this because he researched me. We both come from Jewish, Eastern European, Russian, Austrian background. And so I started preparing foods that my own grandmother, my own mom would have prepared for me when I was homesick as a kid. Matzo ball soup, chicken soup, fresh challah bread, French toast, babka, a roast chicken. Really simple things. And he started eating. And the days went by and he started actually coming out to the table to sit and eat. And he wasn't gray. And I stayed with him the whole time, and he improved. And it was really like it felt like it was a miracle, and I was part of it.
How many days did it take?
Well, the quarantine is for 100 days. When you have your stem cell transplant, your immune system is brought back to zero. So even just going to the corner store to get the paper, maybe give someone some money, you could get something, you could be dead just from a mild cold. So I cooked for the 100 days, and I stayed on. It was a nice experience, a nice relationship. And then I actually started cooking for others in this similar situation and teaching about it.
And how that experience changed you personally, because you call this food with emotional content.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
That came from this guy and this vision of his. Food is food, right? It's calories. It's how you cook it. It's what you go out to eat. Food with emotional content is, where is this food coming from? So an example is my very first conference. I was speaking at a Leukemia Lymphoma Society conference. So there's doctors, cancer patients, and their caregivers, moms and dads in the audience. And I was asked to create this moment to really explain where I was coming from. So I did a visualization. Everyone closed their eyes and think back to when they were 10 years old. You're home sick on the couch, maybe a flu, you had the cold, had a fever, and your mom, your auntie, someone is in the kitchen cooking whatever it is you eat in your family when you're in a situation like that. And I saw smiles in the audience. It really connected with people. And so when I say food with emotional content, it's this idea of this real feeling of joy, heritage, your family. And it's these kinds of foods, I think, that could really help you come back from the brink.
And did that experience and how that experience changed the way you worked afterwards and the way your life went?
Yeah, I guess it just meant to me that life is just more than work, the day to day. Having joy, having purpose, feeling good really adds so much more to your life than a car, a watch, a nice suit, an expensive dinner.
And did that experience help you afterwards to build Queens together? Was that the first step?
Um, no and yes. When Queens Together hit, I was already transitioned to doing other work. I was working for a construction company, doing management. COVID shut down New York in March of 2020. I went remote. My wife's a teacher. She went remote. My son's in school. And we're all sitting there. We're watching the world fall apart, people dying, the ambulances. And all of our friends in the restaurant industry were freaking out. They were closing up. They weren't just going to lose their business, but maybe their home. Family would go broke. People had to stop working. So we had this idea that the restaurants already know how to take care of community. Let's raise money to pay the restaurants to take care of the hospital workers first, like at Elmhurst Hospital, and then transition to taking care of people who were out of work or homesick during COVID. And what was similar to my prior experience was where I was taking care of people in I felt like a very heartfelt, personal way. I could now team up with these amazing restaurants and donors and volunteers to help even more people. It was just sort of scaling up, helping thousands and thousands of people by working together with others.
And that grew to a bigger scale. And even after COVID, you continued that work.
Yeah, we're a nonprofit. We have grown. Because of COVID, we have relationships from Astoria, Long Island City, all the way down to Far Rockaway. So working with donors and volunteers and community groups and food pantries and people in need. So we continue that work today. We've strengthened our systems. We've kind of stopped putting out fires and we've just strengthened what we're good at. But yeah, we're still going.
And why Queens? Why you didn't expand to another borough? Why didn't choose another borough? Why specifically Queens?
Well, I live in Astoria with my family. I love Queens. It's my home. There's a lot of other things happening in other boroughs. Queens is big enough. So I wanted to build my base and this network here.
And what is one misconception or few that people have about Queens or misunderstanding?
Well, I think people see Queens as this big, sprawling, working class community. There's some airports. There's a lot of roads to get you from the airports into the city. People see Manhattan, the Empire State Building and Central Park and all these amazing things. But what people miss about Queens is, let's be honest, Queens is not the prettiest place. It isn't. But what makes Queens beautiful are the people, right? People from all over the world come to Queens to live here in peace. So the reason to come to Queens is to come experience our diversity, our communities, our cultures, our food. That is what people are missing, and that's what people need to know about.
And going back to the restaurant, you said that passion and determination, they're not enough in the restaurant world. When did that reality really sink in for you?
Well, a couple of ways, to be really honest. I had been catering in film and TV since '93. In 2003, I decided to open a restaurant and a catering kitchen next to Silver Cup Studios in Astoria. I was passionate. I was determined. I was successful in catering. I got this. Within 2 years, it was a failed enterprise. We lost a lot of money, my family. I had to close it up and go back to film catering, which is where I was successful. That's what I was good at. So I learned pretty early on that passion and creative skill only gets you so far. Prior to COVID, I think we all saw a bubble building in New York City. There were a lot of restaurants. There weren't enough chefs and kitchen workers to go around. Prices were getting pretty bad. COVID broke that bubble, broke the entire system. Costs are through the roof. Everything, right? Con Edison, utilities, insurance, labor, food costs, packaging, rent. you can't just be a creative, determined chef to support you and your family, whether it's working for someone, running your own business, whatever. The profit margins are so small. The reason why you see really successful corporate chains and franchises is because they run it as a business, not a passionate food operation.
And now, how is Queens Together doing? You're working on two projects, I know.
Yeah.
One is Adopt a Veteran. Talk
Yeah.
about this.
So during COVID, we did a lot of work. There's a veteran shelter in Long Island City, like 200 plus beds. We work with various veterans off and on, community groups throughout the borough doing food pantry work. But because of the work I did with cancer care, I knew that really the most important part of recovery is that first month or so after you get out of the hospital, or in this case, maybe get out of hospice or rehab. And very often veterans are going home from these hospital stays alone with prior disabilities, maybe mental health issues. And if you're already facing food and economic insecurity, you're not even cooking. You're eating Ensure, Pop-Tarts, McDonald's, frozen foods. And Queens Together was really in a position to do something about this. We saw an opportunity to give really personal care. Restaurants, chefs aren't just about cooking. It's also about hospitality. That's really important to us. So being able to personally take care of a veteran for 1 month, and what we do is we provide 1 month of fresh made dinners to help kickstart their recovery. And it's not just dropping off a meal. You've got a chef from a matched restaurant to your needs, delivering food to your home. Like, that's really nice. The restaurants love it. They love it. They get to actually personally take care of someone who really could use some loving care. So it's compassionate hospitality. It's culinary care. The restaurants are paid to do the work. We promote them in the community so people know who the restaurants are that are doing this special care. The veteran is taken care of, and the families of the veterans are really happy that an actual chef is showing up to take care of their loved one. So as far as I can see, it's a win-win for everybody involved, and we're really happy to make this happen.
And is it similar to visiting nurses? How does the whole model operate, and how do you choose the veterans and the restaurants?
Great question. For our pilot back in October, November, we worked directly with the Veterans Administration at St. Albans Hospital, their outpatient team. They got us our first 4 veterans. One of them I have to give a shout out. Horace just turned 107 yesterday. He lives in Fresh Meadows. He was a veteran of World War II, mechanized infantry. So the hospital matched us up with Horace. The family lives out of state, so they were thrilled. He's in Fresh Meadows, so we teamed him up with Franco, who owns Fusi Pasta in Fresh Meadows, one of our big restaurant partners. The guy's a sweetheart. He's a great chef. Turns out Horace loves that kind of food, Italian food. The family actually already knows Fusi Pasta. It's their favorite restaurant in the neighborhood, so it was perfect. So Franco, a few times a week, delivers batches of dinners for Horace. We hear that Horace's appetite came back. He's getting a real kick out of the fact that he's being honored by an actual local chef who's bringing food, just for him. So that's how we found Horace. We're in the new year, and we're kickstarting the next round cohort of veterans. Horace still needs care. We decided to stick with him, and we're going to be adding others in the near future.
And the second program you're working on, it's a SNAP. Explain that.
Yep. So we all know that SNAP benefits are being cut in 2026 across the country. I saw an opportunity. We're calling it Snapback. It's our response to these issues. Our restaurants don't just provide meals. We also provide groceries, right? Restaurants are a supply chain and delivery chain for groceries and meals, at least for Queens Together. So what we decided to do was to find a school or a community group that deals with students and their families. So in this case, our pilot program is partnering with PS7 in Elmhurst. They currently do not have a food pantry program, but now they have us. They helped identify 20 families that were really going to be hurt by these SNAP cuts. Every other Friday, so twice a month, we work, in this case, with Zab Zab, one of our big restaurant partners in Elmhurst to deliver culturally appropriate groceries when the moms and dads come to pick up their kids every other Friday afternoon. These groceries subsidize 7 to 10 days of cooking, dinner prep. And as I think we all know, 1 in 4 kids in New York face hunger issues. Children are most hungry after school. Children and their families are most hungry over the weekends when kids aren't getting meals at school. So by getting the families these groceries on Friday afternoons, we're kickstarting their dinner for the weekends. It's a very direct, targeted impact on people who really need it. And working with the school is a real joy because they know who needs the food. We don't. So once again, the restaurants help fuel this engine of community service. And we hope to scale up the program with more funding, hopefully from our elected officials.
And I'm assuming you need a lot of help, partners, allies you had throughout the years.
Yep.
What are some of them? And also, was it hard to get people on board, especially in the beginning?
The beginning weeks of COVID hit so hard and fast, it's a bit of a blur. But what I do know is that so let's see, that's almost 6 years ago. So I was 52. I learned how to really use Instagram. We built this whole social presence and we started raising money. And we didn't get donors. We didn't just get donors. We got people saying, we're stuck at home. What can we do? We want to do something. So we got individual donors, which fueled our first 2 years of service. Just individual donations from New York City to as far away as England. People started saying, well, what else can we do? So people started showing up to our food pantries. This was pre-vaccine. Other people were web designers, developers, advertisers, organizers. They all stepped up to volunteer. We built this massive network of donors and volunteers, and then we started calling on our restaurant friends. And that was the original base of our operation. At first it was, hey, we know you got food sitting in your fridge. Why don't you use it up and we're going to pay you to do it? And you're by Elmhurst Hospital. Go deliver it to those doctors and nurses. You are a Tibetan restaurant in Jackson Heights. I need you to work with GPK Foundation, which is a Nepalese group, to deliver to senior citizens in that community. And then it just snowballed from there. None of this would be possible without our sponsors and partners. There's one, Hydro-Quebec. They're in town for the Champlain Hudson Power Express project, bringing hydroelectric power from Quebec down to New York City via Astoria. They have been with us from day one, not just financial support. They are out there with us at food pantries. They advise us on our operations. They are not just friends to us, but to the whole community. And then community partners. A big one is the Variety Boys and Girls Club of Astoria. They were shut down during COVID, of course, but they have a parking lot. They have a facility. They became our base for our massive food pantry system that we did with the USDA, the Farm to Family program. Every Thursday from 8 a.m. till 2 p.m., we staged out of there and we distributed food to food pantries across all of Queens. And it was just because we were partners and we could help each other. It was just a matter of asking for help, and people said yes. It's really, I say the silver lining of COVID is discovering how amazing human beings are when people are really called upon to do good work.
Where do you see Queens Together expanding and all the work that you do? Because this is a tremendous work and it requires a lot of energy, effort, and a lot of allies and volunteers, right. I'm assuming. Where do you see this going in 5 to 10 years? And are you tailoring it as you go and whatever the problems are in Queens, or you have a clear vision what you want?
Queens is the inspiration for everything we do. So what we see happening here, we imagine is happening everywhere. As far as energy, I am so energized by the work and the people I work with. I don't see ever stopping. We had Congressman Jim McGovern come down from Massachusetts during COVID. He was inspecting food pantry and hospital systems around the country, going to visit ones that were working. And he came to visit us twice, I believe, and he told us that we were doing something very unique, working with restaurants to fuel and empower the communities with this food relief. I would love to help share this knowledge and teach it so other people around the country could do this. When I travel, I meet with other people doing this work. So in Mexico City and Lisbon, for example, I have met with other people building other unique and really powerful programs. So I think a network of people teaching what they do around the world would be really interesting. There's so much to do.
And I'm assuming that experience changed you as a human,
Hmm.
just like the first one when your friend called you to cook for him. How that changed you?
Um, I think it's about quality of life. Um, it's not the things you have, it's the things you do, it's the people you have around you. So I want to be in better health. I've learned that just like a caregiver, you can't take care of others if you don't take care of yourself. So I discovered biking during COVID, which is my great joy in life. I'm actually doing a biking trip in Europe later on this
Oh.
year. Um, my wife and I would like to have experiences and have fun. We like to surround ourselves with other people interested in doing fun things. So we organize a lot of dinners, as you can imagine, at restaurants around Queens. We organize a lot of community events. Um, Bringing joy to others and caring for others really does start at home. If you take care of yourself and your family and those around you, I believe it's a ripple effect and it can really have a powerful impact on your whole community.
And if we build cities around joy
Hmm.
and not only efficiency alone, what do you think would change first?
Oh, well, that's really interesting. I believe that building a city around joy and care does create an efficient system. So, one of the things I talk about a lot is free healthcare. Let's just stick with that one for this example. If we had free healthcare, children would be healthier, go to school more, get a better education. Parents would have more money in their pocket because they weren't spending it at emergency rooms or walk-in clinics. Kids would grow up with a better education, get better jobs, have more money for them and their families. So now we're talking about the growth of generational health and wealth. If your kids are in better health and parents aren't taking off from work to watch their kid or taking off from work from being sick, people would be working more and have more money in their pockets. On the other side of this, the biggest reason that businesses lose money in this country is because of sick days from employees. So if people were healthier, stronger, more educated workers, businesses would be making more money. So, just with free healthcare alone, bringing joy and care to our city, you would have a much more efficient system on the pathway to health and wealth.
And before we close,
Hmm.
what was the biggest challenges and what are still your biggest challenges?
Um, there's a million nonprofits in America. Probably half of them are in New York. We are still a really little unknown organization. Um, our challenge is just like everybody else, funding. We need funding from our elected officials to do work in their communities, corporate sponsors who want to do community service, philanthropic groups. If more people knew about us and we had more funding, we could just continue to scale up because there's thousands of restaurants in Queens. And I'm sure they would all love to do more of this work with us.
And do you think you figured out your mission? Is this your mission? And if you have, how someone can figure that out for themselves?
Um, yeah, man, this is my mission. I love what I do. I love working with others to help others. It's really satisfying. It makes me happy. I think all of the really great things that have happened to me in my life have been through saying yes to opportunity. More importantly, saying yes to opportunity from people that I trust, the people that are asking me or throwing these ideas out. I really trust and admire them. So I think having a mentor in your life, I think saying yes to opportunity, something that sounds like something you could do and you might really want to do, I think that is the pathway to finding your mission in life.
Anything else that we haven't talked about that you want to share?
Um, sure. It's back to, like free healthcare kind of thing. Um, we had talked earlier about responsibility in community. I don't think communities are responsible for anything. I think the responsibility of taking care of people falls on our government. The government has a responsibility to help care and empower people to be their best and live their best. A community takes care of itself because of passion and desire to help one another. I think community, though, is too often relied upon to do that work. And it should either be shifted back to government, or government should admit that community really does a lot of this work, and community groups should be funded, really funded, to do more of that work that we're really good at, because we're boots on the ground. We know what our neighbors need.
Great. I think that's a great way to end here. Jonathan, thank you so much for being here and wish you all the best in the work that you do.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
That's it for today's show. I'll see you next time.